Check 2. Check.
Whoa,
checking. Mic checking. Hey everybody, thanks for being here today. I'm Al. This is Eric.
What's up?
I'm not going to talk too much about us, but we did a few months ago just get our heads together about something we would like to do of this nature, and the nature can be seen in the way that this event is billed. Can y'all hear me okay? Do I need to put this thing away? Is this better? Great stuff. So you can see the types of the types of ways we were thinking in terms of the merging of different art forms that we wanted together in one room and kind of press boundaries a little bit, or even bring them in if the situation requires it. And we couldn't think of a better place than the Otherwise Society, which I have known about this space that you're standing in for about 6 months. I'm going to let Talon right here talk about the operation out of the space here in Poulsbo. But as you can see, it's warm, it's friendly, it sounds good in here, it's intimate, and that's what I think is just the perfect place to start with a thing called Noumena. Thanks everybody for being here. I'm gonna let Eric talk for a second, and then till the tea.
Cool. I don't want this. Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Noumena. So glad to have you here. Weird. I don't know how the fuck this happened. It's wonderful that it all managed to come together. It was Al's crazy idea, and as many of you know in this room, we're all around crazy fucking ideas, and very rarely do they actually fruition into a room full of people in Poulsbo on a Saturday. So thank you for taking ferry rides here. Thank you for spending any part of your Saturday here. Marginal Frequency is what? A cassette? What do you do? Tell them what you do.
Marginal Frequency started as a performance series. It still is. It became a label in 2016.
Okay, so that's what you do. I do Unpoetry, which is a monthly performance series in Seattle. Probably most of you here have performed at Unpoetry. So that's what happens, I guess. That's what happens when you perform at Unpoetry. I drag you to Poulsbo on a Saturday.
That's what happens.
When you could be doing anything else. But I mean, there's a nice view and sailboats and a couple of recording. Yeah, we're going to try and make this run smoothly. I don't think I'll talk again after this. I mean, you know me. Cool. Thanks for being here. Let's end on a slightly awkward note. What are you asking for, Hannah?
Are you filming us?
Oh. Yeah, my bad. So I'm filming you. I meant to point this at me, but I did it the wrong way. So I've been doing this for like 4 years, and it's always a shit show. Thanks, Hannah. Let's have Talon speak now. Round of applause for the Otherwise Society and Talon.
How's it going, everybody? Thank you so much for being here. This is Otherwise Society Commons. It's a community building and mutual aid group. We all steward this space collectively. We don't believe in hierarchy, or we barely believe in money, but we do have to keep the lights on and stuff like that. So everything is community supported. Everything is sliding scale, and people support in the ways that they can. As far as the space is concerned, feel free to hang out on the patio. We do have a heater if it gets cold, but it's beautiful right now. Sitting on the stairs is cool. The upper deck, I'm going to say, is off limits. There's a bathroom in the back. Let me know if we run out of paper towels or toilet paper or anything like that. Soap. There's lots of tea. We have hot water for it. There's lots of sparkling waters in the fridge. Dominic from Greenlight Diner is going to be here a little bit later with sort of heavy apps kind of throughout the day. So there'll be food, and feel free to ask questions. OtherwiseSociety.org. Please, everybody, take a coin with you. Those are tokens of support, and they also have our website on it. We host 30 monthly events, and they're all community stewarded. All kinds of stuff from ecstatic dance to a death cafe, community dinners, astrology, tarot, weird witchy full moon ceremonies, all kinds of cool shit. So anyways, thanks for being here, and yeah, let's have fun.
keep them left. The darker picture is of grandfather and my grandmother. We moved down, got to see it, but I was down, so he's got to go. When I was 14, with the year from that college, he was with
here when I speak English. And it's funny because he sounds, when he's speaking English, he sounds like he's like Hispanic. Yeah. You know, when he's, he doesn't speak much Spanish. He doesn't speak no Spanish. But like the few little things that I've heard him say, I'm like saying, man, you sound like me. Yeah. But it's so like you sound here. Yeah.
everyone. There are so many organizers, so many people that made this happen. Big thank you to Eric, big thank you to Al, big thank you to the space, big thank you to all of you for being here. It's so good to see everyone in one place. Thanks, Rick.
Let's give up one more time for Shankar, Narayan, and Tom Scully.
All right, folks, while Tom sound checks, I'm going to introduce us. My name is Shankar Narayan. I am a poet and also a teacher in Seattle. I teach a lot of classes, but one of them recently was called The Poetry of Sound and the Sound of Poetry. And I also performed at Unpoetry with Eric, and so, as he puts it, I was dragged out to Poulsbo. So I'm the person that's tasked with giving you a lecture while everybody else is doing cool sound stuff. So we were worried that you all would just fall asleep, so we brought in Tom, who is going to give us live musical accompaniment to the lecture. And it's not quite a lecture, right? So we're going to do this as a history of sound. But it's not really a history of sound. It's sort of largely chronologically chosen, but it's mostly according to just my biases in terms of what I find interesting. So you can call it Shankar's experiential history of sound. We'll mostly do it through quotes. We'll have some found poems, in other words, poems created from quotes from these various soundy people through the ages. And of course the music of Tom, which is going to be your ticket to staying awake through all of this. How many of you all know what the title is an allusion to? Is that weird sound my sound? Ring a bell for anyone? No. Okay. So the sound artist Jackson Mac Lowe had a really famous piece called "Is That Wool Hat My Hat?" It was for 4 voices. And they all started out coordinated, and they all then started to break up over each other. And there's a really cool YouTube video of a set of 4 kids, or maybe more than 4 kids, performing the piece. And they do it much better than the adults, amazingly enough. Well worth checking out if you are a fan of sound art. And also, I like it. And also, Jackson Mac Lowe is the person that taught us, right, in many ways, that it's not just the sound itself, it's the circumstances of the sound, it's the relationship between audience and performer, it's blurring those lines, and it's also the politics, right? The politics of the sound. There's always a power relation in sound. And so throughout the day, as you experience these amazing sound pieces, these are all elements for you to kind of bring into the space. Rock and roll?
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll, guys. All right. Is that weird sound my sound? Here we go, folks. So we start with the basics. What is sound? Right? So at the most basic level, you can call it the audible articulation corresponding to a letter or word. Or if you're Shakespeare, you can call it a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury signifying nothing. Right? So in some ways, that's Shakespeare's statement that actually it's not really about the sound. Right? Sound doesn't carry inherent meaning. If it's sound, then it just doesn't signify anything. But others think differently, right? So McCaffrey says we need to find the innermost alchemy of the word, right? The word itself is a mnemonically charged acoustic force, right? It's got force of its own, entirely apart from what it means in our language, right? This isn't about language, this is about the sound of the word. And Wittgenstein says the same thing, right? So a poem isn't really in the language game of giving information, right? A poem is really about the feel of what the sound is giving to us. And you see this debate playing out, right, over the centuries, right? What's the relationship between sound and sense, right? Sound is actually its own opposite. It's an amazing thing, right? Sound is both meaning, right? It carries inherent meaning. And there's many artists, right, especially in modern times, that strip sound of its meaning, right, and just see sound as an artifact. So this relationship between sound and sense is back and forth, right? And in some ways you can see sound art as just this conjunction of verbal and visual, verbal and sonic, voice and representation, right? It's always a push and pull, a back and forth. One of my favorite quotes about sound is from Yoko Tawada, who's a great novelist. And she said, my solution was not to find a solution, right? But to rather enter into the crevice between sound and language and make countless little notes. So that's what she did, and she did it pretty successfully. Going all the way back, right? So to the Vedas, some of the oldest literature that we've got, in humanity, sound is primal and primacy. There's primacy of sound in the Vedas, right? The creation of the universe wasn't created by sound. The universe was sound, right? The universe was created through this cosmic sound, the Om, the unbound, unstruck sound called Anhat, that still resonates through the cosmos, right? The universe is steeped in sound, it's steeped in vibration, right? Our existence is fundamentally sound, and it's integral to the fabric of reality. So the raga, right, in the South Asian classical system, right, this system of not just notes, but associated with times of day, associated with months, associated with times of year, right? That is the goddess. The mantra is the deity. So let's take a minute to just feel a little vibration from some Vedic chants. This one happens to be a chant to Shiva in his incarnation as the conqueror of death. It's the Mahamrityunjay mantra. After watching this ad for
I'm a busy guy, and I'm not always thinking about my health. But my care team advice permanente is on. They reach out about things I would never think of. Before I switched, I had to go to 10 different places for...
We gotta get someone to...
You have to kill him. You have to kill him bodily. Away.
No, not again. Oh, that's my turn.
Muslim tradition as well, right? Quranic verses also adopt this idea of repetition as being something right? This is known by a Serbian poet called Rhea. But it's actually a remix, right, of a Quranic verse. So let's get a feel of that. I call to witness the ink, will, and script which flows from the pen. I call to witness the faltering shadows of the city of evening, night, and all she enlivens. I call to witness the moon as she waxes at sunrise on her bounds. I call to witness the resurrection day of a soul that accuses itself. I call to witness time, the beginning and end of all things. To witness that every man always suffers. So, indigenous traditions in North America, like the curandera tradition. If you're not familiar with Maria Sabina, amazing poet, who towards the end of her life, and she, obviously an oral poet, but towards the end of her life, Jerome Rothenberg visited her in Mexico and was actually able to get some recordings of her to chant-based healing practices. So let's get a feel for what that's like, hopefully without Kaiser Permanente. The Muslim tradition as well, Quranic verses, and rhyme is part of our inner nature, right? So To take just one example, this dude, Berthus, from the 6th century, wrote this very influential treatise on musical, on sort of the breakdown of what music really is. And he talked about musica mundana, which is the harmony of the universe, musica humana, which is the harmony of our body and our reason, and musica instrumentalis, or played music, right, which he really saw as 3 aspects of the same thing. And many, many more ideas, right, but the basic idea here is that rhythm is a necessary condition of human life, right? Rhyme and rhythm are our consent to recurring sound that comes deep from deep within us and draws us beyond ourselves, which then means that when we make a poem or when we make sound, right, we are discovering not only our relationship to nature, but actually our relationship to our deepest inner selves. This is an idea that's driven sound art for a long time. And we have this dude, Jacques Roubaud, who talks about poetry and orality, right? So what is this? He says that the poem has 4 aspects, right? It's the spoken poem, the written poem on the page, it's how we hear the poem in our heads, and how we visualize the poem in our heads, right? So it's a 4-fold thing. And he was quite an exuberant guy, so the first of our found poems is going to be the words of Roubaud, who says, "Let me begin in the beginning, the notion of poetry. The devaluation of poetry provokes pitiful attention to its few places of survival. The art of the troubadour is the canso uniting word and sound, indissolubly interlacing language and music. The breaking of the bond between word and sound in new double form, poetry. Combine writing and speech to make them indissociable. The other form has not disappeared. We call it song. A song is not a poem, and a poem is not a song. The words of a song imply that their sounds may constitute a poem or not. The words of a poem put to music may constitute a song or not. It's an insult to poetry to call it song. It's an insult to song to call it poetry. There's no poem without meaning. One form confronts the other and they collide. If it has not entered a single mind, the poem does not exist. If poems contain meaning, it is surplus. It's possible what I call poetry will disappear, vanish into prose, be replaced. I am not a prophet." A gentleman with strong feelings. Repetition is fundamental. Then what happens in the 20th century? Many of you may be familiar with this, right? But there's a whole period of ferment around sound arts where people like the Russian Cubo-futurists and the Dadaists are really trying to push the bounds of what is intelligible and referential, right, in sound. They have avant-garde music that just gets rid of lyricism entirely, and sound poetry rejects meaning, right? Sound poetry is just about the sound and not about the language. So instead, you've got these structures and incantations, these syllabic mouthings, deliberate lexical distortions, where the poem is free to be inarticulate. And this quote from Hugo Ball kind of sums this up, right? The background, the inarticulate, the disastrous, the decisive, expressing the conflict with the world that threatens, ensnares, and destroys, right? So this is a world that's going to war. This is a world that is industrializing. There's a lot of uncertainty, kind of like now, right? And sound art reflects that. The Russians also did this, right? So in this form of Zaum poetry, Zaum, which means beyond the mind or beyond sense, there's a deliberate undermining of syntax, right? Conventional semantics go by the wayside. Meaning becomes potential in its marginality. So in honor of this movement, we have a second poem, second found poem from this guy, Italian guy, Russolo. He wrote this big treatise called The Art of Noises, in which, this was the Italian manifesto around industrial noise. And he says, We must break out of this limited circle of sounds and conquer the infinite variety of noise sounds. Each sound carries a tangle of sensations already well known and exhausted, which predispose us to boredom. We have had enough of Beethoven and Wagner. We delight much more in combining the noises of trams, of automobile engines, of carriages and brawling crowds, than in hearing again the eroica or pastoral. We cannot see in modern orchestra. We cannot see the modern orchestra without being disillusioned by its paltry results. Do you know of a more ridiculous sight than 20 men striving to redouble the mewling of a violin? There is in progress a repugnant medley of monotonous impressions and the cretinous religious emotion of the Buddha-like listeners, drunk repeating for the 1,000th times their snobbish ecstasy. Let us make the musical maniacs scream. Let us go together like futurists into a modern city to enjoy the throbbing of valves, the purring of motors, the pounding of pistons, the screeching of gears, the clatter of streetcars on their rails, the cracking of whips, the flapping of awnings and flags. Away, let us leave, since we cannot restrain ourselves from a new musical reality. So, very direct manifesto, right? We don't like Beethoven anymore. We like streetcars and pistons. And so, along those lines, here is a famous Russian Cubo-futurist piece by Velimir Klebnikov. So instead, you've got these structures and incantations, these syllabic mouthings, deliberate lexical distortions, where the poem is free to be inarticulate. And this poem, this quote from Hugo Ball kind of sums this up, right? The background, the inarticulate, the disastrous, the decisive, expressing the conflict with a world that threatens, ensnares, and destroys, right? So this is a world that's going to war. This is a world that is industrializing. There's a lot of uncertainty, kind of like now, right? And sound art reflects that. The Russians also did this, right? So in this form of zaum poetry, zaum, which means beyond the mind or beyond sense, there's a deliberate undermining of syntax, right? Conventional semantics go by the wayside. Meaning becomes potential in its marginality. So in honor of this movement, we have a second poem, second found poem from this guy, Italian guy, Russolo. He wrote this big treatise called The Art of Noises, in which, this was the Italian manifesto around industrial noise. And he says, "We must break out of this limited circle of sounds and conquer the infinite variety of noise sounds. Each sound carries a tangle of sensations already well known and exhausted, which predispose us to boredom. We have had enough of Beethoven and Wagner. We delight much more in combining the noises of trams, of automobile engines, of carriages and brawling crowds, than in hearing again the eroica or pastoral. We cannot see in modern orchestra, we cannot see the modern orchestra without being disillusioned by its paltry results. Do you know of a more ridiculous sight than 20 men striving to redouble the mewling of a violin? There is in progress a repugnant medley of monotonous impressions and of the cretinous religious emotion of the Buddha-like listeners, drunk repeating for the 1,000th times their snobbish ecstasy. Let us make the musical maniacs scream. Let us go together like futurists into a modern city to enjoy the throbbing of valves, the purring of motors, the pounding of pistons, the screeching of gears, the clatter of streetcars on their rails, the cracking of whips, the flapping of awnings and flags. Away, let us leave, since we cannot restrain ourselves from a new musical reality." So, very direct manifesto, right? We don't like Beethoven anymore. We like streetcars and pistons. And so along those lines, here is a famous Russian Cubo-futurist piece by Velimir Klebnikov. First the Russian and then the English of a very famous poem called Incantation by Laughter. Just listen to the sounds. The Russian sounds are particularly great.
translation of the English of this great poem on its 100th anniversary, Incantation by Laughter in English.
Sounds great.
Заклятие смеха. О, рассмейтесь, смехачи! О, засмейтесь, смехачи! Что смеются смехами, что смеянствуют смеяльно, о, засмейтесь усмеяльно! О, рассмешишь над смеяльных, смех усмейных смехачей! О, и смейся рассмеяльно смех над смейных смеячей! Смеево, смеево! Усмей, осмей, смешики, смешики, смеюнчики, смеюнчики, о, рассмейтесь, смехачи, о, засмейтесь, смехачи.
So here's my translation of this poem. Incantation by Laughter. We laugh with our laughter. Look, laugher, loafer, sloth, laughter, in leffer, laughter und loofer, loops, lapper und lassler, pleep, loper, ek, lippler, bloop, oofer und ooter, floop, flaffer, ek, flooper, foot, lickless and slicklers, ak, lushing, ag, laughing, looping, ip, loopling, lippling, ga, sprinkling, laughter, laughing, laughter.
This is
All right. That really was English. But English of a different syntax, right? What happens after this, right? So after the 50s, we go from remixing syntax with words to actually just going beyond words entirely. And maybe the most famous exponent of this is John Cage, right? Who basically said, the nature of music does not arise from pitch relations, but from acceptance of all audio phenomena as material proper to music, right? So, strained to its limits, language becomes silence, right? But because of the circumstances of production, right, there's still meaning to it. So what we're doing is expanding the field of sound through these extended techniques, right? Prepared instruments, inventions of new sound resources. You can see at the bottom one of his algorithms for a sound piece, right, that has everything to do with not using the instrument the way it was originally designed to be used. It also says steam fish and tub. Sounds like a great sound. So let's just get a feel for this, probably John Cage's most famous piece, right? We're just going to listen to a minute, but you probably know that it's 4 minutes and 33 seconds long. Here we go. And on for roughly 2.5 more minutes. And you notice what happened here, right? We all kind of became a part of this this performance, right? People coming down the stairs, the voices, our breathing, what's happening outside, right? So the distinction between performer and audience is erased. So to round out, we'll look at what's happening in the 21st century, right? Which you might call positive Babylonization, right? Translation as a medium of cultural development and interaction. So this guy, Leto, this commentator, thinks that English as a second language is basically the most important language in the world right now, right? And these ideas around translation contribute to a poetics of homophonic translation and facilitation of global flow of signs. And as we saw from Jackson Maclow and from John Cage, this reversal between author and audience. Maclow says, method is the first thing. The method is what comes by inspiration and calculation, right? So it's the circumstances of sound production in addition to just the sound. And our last video is of Christian Bach, this Canadian poet who does these amazing performances, which he calls cyborg opera, music by machines, for machines, right? The contemporary labor of poetry under technocratic duress. Poetry that disavows the apparent humanity of the voices that might recite it, all right? So instead, music that emulates the mechanical rhythms and cacophonic melodies heard in the throb of our machines. Where have we heard this before, right? A century before, the Dadaists and the Cubo-Futurists, in the face of a world at war and mechanization, were thinking the same things. So how have we evolved in those 100 years or so? Let's listen to Christian Bach.
Taken from a sequence to be called motorized razors. Chainsaw maniac, hijack, tick-tock, bosses, clacks and clanks, gangs of gung-ho guys with axes, battling, gatling guns, attack boom boxes, oxy-acetylene sun. Rotosaza, Risachum Zang, Nundada, Roborama, Buzz, Bazooka, Buzz, Buzz, Bang, Zang, Zing, 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 Zulu, acid, jazzy, sound, jiu-jitsu. Boom. Jackal, Dada, Hacksaw, Aragoon, Nanacadenza, Razor, Rama, Surfbombers, Berserkers, Curse, Law, Which Causes, Rust, Scissors, Chainsaw Maniac, hijack, tick-tock, bosses, clacks and clanks, gangs of gung-ho guys with axes, battling, gatling guns, attack boom boxes, oxy-acetylene sun.
Canadians aren't always quiet. And let's close out with this postlude, right? And I put this up tongue-in-cheek. I'm also an activist around technology, and I think there's multiple sides to this coin, right? Of saying writing is the technology of cyborgs, or we're here to mind the machines, right? It also means that there is an accentuation of humanity, right, as a trope for sound art moving forward. And so we'll close out with one last found poetry piece. This is from Goldberg, talking about where we are and where we're going in this moment. The endless cycle of textual fluidity, from imprisonment to emancipation, back to imprisonment and freed once more. The balance between dormant text warehoused locally and active text in play on the expanded field. Language in play, language out of play, language frozen, language melted. If every word spoken daily in New York City were to materialize as a snowflake, every day there would be a blizzard. The gradual accumulation of words, a blizzard of the evanescent. Language as material, language as process, language as something to be shoveled into a machine and spread across pages only to be discarded and recycled once again. Language as junk, language as detritus, nutritionless language, meaningless language, unloved language, everyday speech, illegibility, unreadability, machinistic repetition. Obsessive archiving and cataloging, the debased language of media and advertising. language more concerned with quantity than quality. How to proceed after the pulverization of language that is the 20th century's legacy. How much did you say that paragraph weighed? Thanks, everyone.
Lately I've been being paid to watch an empty building. Lately I've been paid to watch an empty building. While I was watching the building, believe it or not, this is the quiet rig. While I was watching the building, a few friends came over. I had one friend come over and he was singing to me while he was playing a 12-string guitar with 6 strings. And then the next day, Amy came and slept on my couch. She was too drunk to drive, but it's less the drinking and driving that's the problem. But you know, when you're that drunk on like a Sunday, that you just kind of want to have a friend to eat dicks with and sleep on your couch. It's less about the driving and more about needing a place to like connect again. Because when you're drinking that hard, sometimes you need a place to sit down. And then I remember, while I was watching the empty building, I wasn't doing the best job, necessarily, because I decided to go into the basement, where there's a giant wood shop, and on one of the machines, you can still hear the ghost of Timothy's first finger, which is kind of a joke, but, I mean, ask Timothy and his finger, it's not there no more. It's definitely gone. And I could have sworn one time Danny walked me through the wood shop and was like, you can still see blood. And I think there's still a little blood on the, I forget what it was. I was working at a carpentry shop for a little bit, but my boss was an asshole, which is a real bummer because I was going to learn a trade. And as you all know, it's primarily musicians and artists here. Nobody taught me a trade. Throughout all my years in school, they're like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I was like, be a writer. They're like, that's stupid. And they taught me nothing. Believe it or not, I did bring poems to read. But, much like Shankar just enumerated for us, sometimes the poetry on the page really gets you nowhere in terms of sound and meaning. Sometimes you really want to know. I actually don't really know what you all want to know. That's why my backstory's you, I guess. Because ultimately, it matters not. Across the empty building is a neon sign saying Jupiter. I don't know what this pedal does. I got it the other day. I walked into my friend's music shop, not bragging, but I know a guy. And this pedal was sitting on the counter. And I was like, what the fuck is that? He's like, I don't know, it's worth $4.50, but we're charging $5. And then he's like, you can just have it. Because I guess I had the right enthusiasm for a $4.50 pedal. And honestly, as he was showing it to me, he's like, these buttons don't seem to work. But they're working now, pretty well. Like I said, Amy was asleep on my couch, and then yesterday she wasn't on my couch. And I was like, man, I kind of miss Amy being here. Even though it's not the apartment, like, I don't want Amy to be my roommate because I don't necessarily enjoy roommate ideas. You know, like, the romanticism of Amy sleeping on your couch really wears thin on, like, hour 12. Much like most friends who sleep on your couch. I have a friend who had a roommate. Big fucking surprise in the city that we're not in. The big city. Is Poulsbo bigger? I don't know. Check my math. I'm from Texas. I don't know where the fuck I am. Anyways, that's a handy excuse whenever you're in any conversation in Seattle. Like, why'd you say that? Texas, I'm sorry. Be lucky I'm fucking even speaking sentences. Or know that we're in Seattle. Isn't this bigger Texas? No, it's Washington. It's like, that's Texas. No, it's not. Anyways, I was talking about my friend who had a roommate, and that friend's roommate had a friend. Also not bragging, my friends have friends. That's important to know. You don't want to be your friend's only friend, because then that's going to be sad for everyone when they realize, like, you're not my whole world either. It's like, but you're my whole world. Well, that sucks for you, dude. That's how I speak to my friends. That sucks for you, dude. Stop being lonely. Anyways, the fucking roommate had a friend of my friend, a friend. Anyways, this fucker from Florida was crashing on their couch for a long time, like months. And he didn't pay any electricity, wasn't on the lease. And he was a truck driver, so he came with this like, hey, I gotta go to bed by 8 p.m. fucking thing. And it's like, dude, if you're gonna be a couch server, you can't be picky about when other people in the house go to sleep. My friend doesn't live there anymore. He had a falling out with that roommate. I got a letter the other day from a musician that was surprisingly well written. And every time I read their writing, I'm like, man, you're so smart. Shout out smart people. Or not. I mean, what does it matter? I have 2 degrees. This is what 2 degrees buys you. And I found out the other day that I did not read the unemployment paperwork correctly. And they're like, you have $500 left. That's what that sounds like. You have $500 left. And they're like, maybe you can get an extension if there's a recession. I was like, when the fuck do you call it a recession? Everyone I talk to doesn't have money. They're like, not yet. Definitely not yet. I mean, I guess the opposite is true. I talked to my friend the other day about a man who was trying to buy himself into the art scene, and sadly, I'm still kind of sold. It's less like I hate the guy and more like I hate that I probably could be bought. And given that this man has like white guy money, pretty fucking cheap, honestly. Like serious white guy money, dude. was thinking about this festival, and I guess I'll say this now as opposed to later. I really was just interested in getting everyone here who I wanted to hang out with. That's kind of, I guess the theme for today's performance is friendship. That's weird. I didn't think that was gonna happen, but yeah. Love your friends. Don't tell them that sucks, you're lonely. Also, is this now a TED Talk? Or some sort of life coach thing? I'm unemployed, maybe my next step is fucking life coach. Fuck noise, now I'm a life coach. Which is who you want to be telling you what to do. So you say you failed as an artist and now you think you can help me? Definitely. Definitely, Sandra, I can help you. First step, get friends. Second step, tell your roommate to leave. Third step, call Amy. Amy needs a couch. Fourth step, if you're really lonely, invent a festival and put it in Poulsbo. You're welcome. All of you, that was a life coach for free. I'm available sometimes on weekends, but not often. My schedule's pretty packed for an unemployed guy, so, you know, if you would like to make an appointment, sign up at the door. There's QR codes for that, for sure. I had Al make those, so if he didn't make those, we're gonna fucking have to stop this thing. You didn't make the deadline, the appointment fucking QR codes, bro? Fuck the food, dude. How am I gonna get a life coach session? I guess if you want a life coach session me, that would be cool too. Does anyone know a trade? That's it. Thanks, everybody.
A fire, right? Something crackling, like wood, like flesh breaking, popping open, like devouring, like crunch, the sound of small bones between your teeth. Crunch of crow underfoot, caw, tooth, smush. 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 It's March. A past version of myself records something on her phone to save for later. This is the sound. A 20-minute segment of mostly wind, crows, cars, and planes, and whatever else. I have this practice where I listen to recordings like these and write ekphrastic poetry to them. I listen to 10-second fragments and follow with a line or two. I'm trying to have a conversation. I want to say I took this at night. I want to say this crackling sounds like a fire. But breath comes from my mouth. A body moves like wind. But the problem with this recording is that I don't remember it. I've written down the date, but nothing else. When would I have been near a fire in March of this year? The wind picks up to a frightening level, blowing into my eardrums. I have to make adjustments to hear what's underneath. There's a she in this archive, me. But is she speaking or just rubbing her hands together? The way highways can sound like rivers from a distance. I don't know what I'm listening to, and it unsettles me. Something turns in a circular motion. Someone manipulates the environment. She's singing in the kitchen. She's in the bedroom folding sheets. She's sitting outside by the fire. She's sitting inside at the window.
There's warmth in the room she occupies. She speaks to someone. People talking in the room. People talking, people talking, people talking in the room. People talking in the room. I'm beginning to think it might actually be the rain. I'm embarrassed by the intimacy of this. Was that a kiss I heard? That surely wasn't for me to hear. And yet, she was recording this. She wanted me to hear. Perhaps a storm. Perhaps the walls were shaking. Perhaps a lover under a blanket. Perhaps one more night together before she left the country, huddled close as the weather happened around them. Before she left the country. I know this was the case because when I listened to this months later, I looked for further evidence of that night. The date on my Google Calendar, there it is. The flight itinerary for the next day. If her voice sounds like a song from a distance, then I must be the storm, shaking the walls of the apartment, trying to get inside this memory. I'm looking in through the French doors on the porch. I'm watching the people in the room. I am the creature skulking in the dark. My grandfather lost his memory. Perhaps my mother will too. Perhaps me. With him, we knew because he stopped talking. Language a way between the real and the imagined. Language a bridge to loss. Because without context, what do I have? Imagination. And without imagination, what do I have? Something artificial. I want to put her in a box, the shape of this apartment, one that makes sense. But then I wonder who I would be if I didn't need to understand. So I try imagining the impossible. A crone woman dancing over hot coals and tapping her long fingernails. I imagine rats on ice, corvids and grasshoppers, and I even imagine you, lover, on the other side of that window. But still the numbers tick. Still I belong to the passage of time. Nothing is happening. I try to lose track, and then I do. And like waking from a dream late, the panic of time's passage causes me to forget the message. And like waking from a dream late, like how highways can be rivers, and how cars can shriek like people and birds. A list of things I think are happening in this room. A door closes and latches. A handle turns to release a lock and opens. A hand grabs another hand and fingers interlace. People talking the way they do when they're also doing something else. Perhaps she's packing. Perhaps the latch of her suitcase. And she's always singing something. We were together that night. I looked through my phone and found 2 photos I took of you at the Thai restaurant. I spent our whole last year together leaving you. I asked you if you remembered anything from that night, and you said no. But you did search your phone for evidence. I asked you for help, and you said yes. You usually do. I try to let go of the image, but still something feels sticky, like drenched fabric, a wet flag slapping the house with heavy, patriotic insistence. A friend tells me that the winds this week are the arrivals of the dead. Light a candle, she says, so they can make their way back to you. I wonder if what's died between us will come back. Not in the form of resurrection per se, but more like, well, this. Something like memory, like imagination, something that may or may not have happened. If I can manipulate the only evidence of this moment, what then becomes of this? Of us? The crows remind me that the dead go to a place that's both real and imagined. My grandfather's lost memories, now tiny particles of ash along the mountains, and also in the river, and also on my mantle. One and the same. Like me, you searched for answers to this melody, but all you found were reminders from when you loved me. But maybe in these 20 minutes, she was alone, like I am now. The planes of this morning roaring in through my window, sound waves from present and past intermingling in my living room. What sounds like a kiss could be anything else. Because circumstances have changed in the time between the recording and the listening, I imagine the loss. The room I used to spend my nights in, the voice I used to hear. I can attempt to make the scene as accurate as possible, but I'm still influenced by the context of now. The philosopher and monk Anselm once argued that God must be real because everything that we can imagine is first based on something that already exists. René Descartes has similar theories. Does this make this image real? The one of me and you in the upstairs apartment while the storm rages outside? The one of the phone left on the windowsill, listening to us, listening to her walk around the kitchen counter, to him on the couch, the cat in the corner, the bonfire outside, the kiss on the mouth. Did this really happen? Does it matter if I can imagine it? A car, I think, splashes. I speculate. Without language, I speculate. Because my grandfather couldn't speak, we predicted his needs and thoughts. Or, like calling into an empty house, heard only our own voices returning. What is happening? What is happening? What is happening on the other side of this sound? What's happening inside? What is happening outside? What is happening inside? What is happening outside? What is happening in between? What is happening outside? What is happening inside? There's where I want this to be, and then there's wherever it is. I can create the scene with the warmly lit window and the people inside talking. I can create the stormy night and the cars splashing puddles on the street. This is the memory I imagine, pieced together from what I think is something real. What is I remember once being led through a forest blindfolded by someone I had barely met. This feels a bit like that. I wonder if this is how he felt sometimes, this grasping for something you can't quite touch. The sound of wind becomes a barrier between me and what I'm allowed to know. When my grandfather started talking less, he started saying, "I love you" more. A cabinet, a broom, air pushed through teeth, a latch, the rain, your jingling keycaps, a moan, a horn, the groan of the old floor, the rain, your jingling keycaps. A truck approaches. Its brakes squeak against its heavy load. My grief approaches. I don't want to be left alone. I told myself I would allow the sound to be unknown, told myself to love you and not the imagined future, told myself not to picture heaven when he was dying, but we all fall into fantasy. We all fill gaps in context, trying to find meaning where meaning doesn't exist. I look at you today and sometimes wonder how we were ever together, and I still miss being in the room with you. He died in a quiet flutter, much like we did, death transforming. Him now a candle on my mantle, you now a friend. The brakes squeal into life as the truck slows down. They keen, they cry, and I learn from this. Metal moving, tongue peeling, wet cheek, mouth roof, lips parting, paper rustling, shower curtain, waterproof. I want to stay there with her. I want to crawl into bed with her under the soft glow of firelight. I want to wrap her in my arms and fall asleep in the place where her breast meets her collarbone. I want her to stroke my hair absent-mindedly as she looks up at the ceiling, unable to sleep. I want her to make this make sense to me, to explain why she took this sound and saved it for later, what she hoped to hear in all of this wind and rain and crow song and plane engine and car tire, why she left me to imagine her life rather than remember it, to sit alone in a room playing sounds without context. The difference between a memory and a dream, desire and fulfillment, the actual, the real, the make-believe. Doesn't matter what happened if I can imagine it. In the not remembering, I do remember something else. Everything imagined comes first from something that does exist. Because there have been stormy evenings. There was an upstairs apartment, a couch in the corner, a gray cat, and people talking in the kitchen. And just because I picture this from a different angle doesn't make it less, it just changes its shape. From fire to water, inside to out. The sound may not remind me of what was, but it does remind me of what is. I am not by the fire. I am not in the room. I am looking in from the window. And behind me is a wet and darkening sky. The wind has answers, of course, but I don't hear them.
Thank you.
That's Emma McVeigh. We're gonna take about 10 minutes to change.
Hope this isn't too loud.
What's stopping us from flowing into the street? From pulling crooks from their sheets? Is it timid? Amazon? The poison that we eat? Maybe we're all just a little sated. 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 Can I turn it up a little? Woo! And the apple, 168 per pound. Apple net worth 3.5 trillion. I looked it up on my iPhone. 14 already out the window. And I guess I'm a little sated. 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 Thank you. Can you hear the guitar?
Yes.
Yay. Floating, I dingle thread. ACOSTA. Hi, everyone. I'm Jordan. Hey, Jordan. So nervous. If you're the ox, then I'm the ass. Steer me wrong, I won't bite back. Little pig, won't you come out? Not so innocent are you now? Candle wax drips on your skin. You're out all night looking for it. Mother calls, you're in it now. You know the way, but you don't know how. If you're the ox, then I'm the ass. Steer me wrong, I won't bite back. Just cross my arms and stamp my feet. Child does, child sees. entire paragraph. There is correlation underneath, connecting you to me, connecting you to me, connecting you to me, connecting you to me.
Snacks in the bag. Thanks for the food.
Green Light Diner.
Oh, Jordan Eller.
streets of 2097 AD, market disrupting moonshot IPO of galvanized fetal vault enclosures incorporated.
Yeah.
Great metal pods, all lined up in a great big warehouse. Many such warehouses, new American jobs, well outside of the coal mines, deep inside the womb. Mothers are always taking American jobs. The empire finally strikes back, takes it back. Come and get it. I assure you, furthest thing from snake oil, it works, it really works. Legislation is never far behind a promising cost savings analysis. They promise, hearts crossed, the questions have been solved cleanly and completely. Paris Accord un non. Regulated, regular, industrial reproduction. Sweeping the nation so you can stop sweeping the kitchen and start speaking in the boardroom where decisions are made. Small hiccups in terms of rollout and enforcement, not as much public outcry as you'd think, because just think of the benefits. It's no different at its core than the myriad changes that have come before. No more switchboard operators, no more milkmen, no more mothers. A coincidence for sure. A heaviness is gone and birth and remembrance censored. How could anyone miss something so animal? Who wants to be terrorized by something so banal? In the grip of biology, we're beyond such things now. We have rare earth minerals and an as yet ill-defined but very exciting metaverse. Even Luddites can't deny the great metal pods. They're to free us, unshackle us. I heard talk of liberation once. I remember it clearly. If you ask me, it's a resounding win for de Beauvoir's imagined female ghetto. We never needed to do the hard bit after all, becoming true sisters in arms, black and brown and white, cis and trans. This time, we didn't even need a war to join the ranks. How's that for innovation? Praise the Lord for Ivy League dropouts and their talent for spotting problems so seemingly insignificant and unproblematic, so obvious in hindsight. Thank you, shadowy face of scientific progress. It is because of you we have no leeches, no phrenologists, no quackery, no mother darling, everything's so goddamn dark we've been going blind without realizing it, and thus, no dark ages. Miranda can wander into the nearest love shack and emerge unscathed, roof none the worse for wear, Prospero breathing easy, off stage in hell somewhere. Think about it, bub. Why should I have had to give up my body and my mind? And I did give up my body and my mind about 100 times over, albeit willingly at the time. Oh, collect call from the collective unconscious, helpfully reminding me that ain't the way. Puritanical mother culture don't so much like the willingly. She prefers the pain and punishment angle, the grotesqueness of the slide from Madonna to the whore, the boom of the sensation novel, East Lynne in your very own home. Young man, your wife is no exception to the rule. You don't think she's bleeding on the sheets for nothing, do you? That would be too sad, too unfair, and life is nothing if not eminently fair. Now that we've stamped out about 4 deadly sins with ruthless efficiency, put a boot on the face of the human race and you'll see straps laced up like never before. No more fragility, just great metal pods. Put a finger down if you've ever begged society to get out of the robot. See, when man and machine love each other very much, something warm but fraught becomes something cool and clinical. The birds become dodos and the bees go extinct. An essential egoistic pull to the other in a divvying up of parts, my eyes exalted and your smile begrudgingly acknowledged, loses import and impact. Perhaps a good thing, though this particularly deluded me machine has trouble thinking so. I mean, good riddance to the nuclear family, to prescribe norms and limits, to cookie cutters, to molds, if only we could have said the same to nuclear bombs. Instead, we fat man familial ties full stop. Blood of the covenant dries up alongside the water of the womb, thanks to that meddling first law of thermodynamics. Asimov's first law was much more easily broken. Throwbacks died out, all humorless sticks in the mud, and the rest of us got used to no more pro or anti, no more bombings, no more murmurs to dark passengers, no more choices to be had. But on the plus side, no more Mother's Day, where we got it from both sides and an embarrassing third to boot. Was it Aristophanes who so rightly noted it sucks ass? Disrespectfully, though good wombs have borne bad sons, the metal mothers have borne children of divorce without the infrastructure in place for oyster 19s and uranium 3s, with only the frothy foam of genetic material, more synthetic than not, shaken, stirred, and incubated for would-be Aphrodites to arise anew from the quaking sea, reeking of today's special primordial soup. Angelic in a sense strictly biblical, you understand, a colicky generation completely unmoored. Turns out touch or lack thereof is still a killer of minds if not bodies. Turns out social structures were, well, Turns out that shit was a lot more tenuous than expected, even by citizens post-irony. Theists with their capital A's and capital A atheists alike, worshiping at the altar of great metal pods. Absence of choice begets absence of meaning. It was the choice to beget or not that made the worst of times the best of times. No excuses now to not be gainfully employed, a full-time worker, more productive. Babies no longer in back seats, but off-boarded like so many disgruntled employees, unceremoniously, without malice, only a palpable sense of relief. Sir, pulling out a shotgun doesn't make this a wedding. Please hold your objections until the end. I have some myself. Lists of grievances that only worked as exceptions to the rules. Ma'am, your anger is quite misplaced. Keep in mind, no one asked me before the reductionism. No one asked me before the elevation of objectivity. No one appears to have asked, is the problem really that we have too few men? Because no one ever really stopped believing in Saint Hysteria, cousin of Bacchus, the secret mystery of bodies which no one, doctors and researchers least of all, could piece together, told to relieve ourselves through prayer and Ozempic. Inevitable despairing endings, a direct consequence of the hubris of woman, petulant in her refusal to replicate the responses and reactions of non-lunar-based life forms, beamed down to Eden at the beginning of history, circa 1969. Couldn't Dr. Rawls have warned us about the original sin of transmission? And Fremdom and Poulsbo? Marxy baby, we need a new word for alienation like this. No more fruits of our labor when the labor is gone. Outsourced to uncomplaining, great metal pods. Cassandra might have predicted the plunging rates going deeper underwater. People lost interest in permits long ago, in false prophets and bureaucratic promises. A meritocracy system or a Nepo baby machine. Any other name would smell as wrong play. Meanwhile, the economists scratch their heads and wonder aloud, but why? Now that the costs and pains have all been stripped away to reveal a gleaming, oops, all pleasure immortality project? No need to star in your own musky harem anime. No more delayed gratification. No more artificial limits on manifest destiny. Our little lives now in service to and of and for industry. Such dream stuff, fine for sleeping when we should be on the job. A ceaseless bullshit job, but a 4-day work week, and for that you should rejoice. A pragmatic utopia, the best we could do. Just think of the benefits. Think of God's children. We grow them now, like soybeans. Finally, our own homegrown soy boys. Straight from the source, great metal pods, all lined up in a great big warehouse. Many such warehouses. The last to inherit a great dissolving globe, a salvio wheel rolling over and over, a collapsing Kalachakra. Thank you.
Stage Westfall.
It's Rhea Melina, everybody.
Thanks to everyone. It's been just wonderful. You're all so talented and beautiful, beautiful souls. So I usually start with some old bangers to just warm up, you know. I'm just gonna do a short one because just feeling the room, I feel like I don't need to hide much from y'all, which is a very good thing. Not that this first one's a disguise. I'll just do it. You're so conditioned to war that when I say peace, you say, don't take sides. Okay. Okay, well, don't wait for my death to bring me a big bouquet, because beating hearts deserve romance, every last one of them. And pulling down your God is easy. It's a sore throat outside, and I wouldn't eat with that mouth. It's been fingering up the truth, and God only knows where that's been, just tracing the rim of our puzzle pieces with its tongue. Transparent gods, they blur into each other. They paint themselves into the mountains. I could never fake a sunset to you, love. There's no hiding the evidence of slaughtering the day. Jesus, what year is it? Am I aging already? I have lost count of the wrinkled ridges as supernova is burning herself blind and careless. Just look busy. Just look busy. It's also easy when your head's been taken as compensation for secrets held under the water for far too long. We can all read the text within the bubbles. Just press the phones to our chest now. This heartless nation marches for you and you. This heartless nation marches Myself, and you're getting to know who I am. So I'm going to read a newer one. My tone cannot be policed because I'm so angry. If this was a call and response, I would be fawning, but it's just me up here, so this is what you get. Also, I laugh a lot nervously. It's because I'm also full of joy. Hard to believe when I sound sarcastic, but I'm not being sarcastic right now. And actually, I don't believe in God, but I think it's sexy that you do. It makes me want to peel back your layers. It makes me wonder what shines inside of you. I want to show you the power you have that's all your own, and the magic you share with godless miscreants like me. On the full moon, we will either fuck or fight, and it isn't your God who has a hand in this, but something unnamed and wild. Something you love like a pet that resists years of training, but you should put your prayers to better use. You should throw your words away. Stop pretending someone has control over anything. Rest assured in mystery. I know, you don't know when to clap. Awkward. It's awkward for me too. Yeah. All right, this is a kind of newer one. It's called Harvest. Held dangerously by a thin, damp stem. I am cold at first touch, but my breath is of the phoenix rising from a fruit's core within. I tremble and blush when you notice me and peel back a veil layer to reveal an honest garter belt of vine, leaves curled around the edges. I beg you to harvest me. How could you let my fruit go to waste? Harvest me and make a feast of my flesh, as many courses as you can enjoy. Ration some helpings for the coming weeks. Make a sweet compote to simmer all night for breakfast turnovers. Fold me in flour and butter. Prepare my stalks for winter. Smooth mulch over my roots. Wrap my trunk in strips of an old quilt. Tell yourself I'll be warm without you. As you close my eyes with your hands, tell me winter will be short. Oh, I can smell the war coming. That's it. It's been too many days uninterrupted with rubber burning in my nostrils and exhaust fuming in my cheeks. I try to brush it off and it doesn't go away. I cough and it tastes like plastic. No matter what I do or say, I fear I'm fake or floating, not like an angel or a fairy flying in a dream, but like a mannequin with no feet, no seams, no humanity. See, the flags keep getting bigger. The speeches more simple. I know what's next, and so do the hairs on the back of my neck. And if you're privileged, you either run to the sidelines or flee past the border. If you're like me, you still have to make some ends meet. Meet where? Meet who? For how long? We actually don't ask. We indulge in simple pleasures and escape the anxiety, masking despair with rebellion. Apparently, simply living in truth, in love, in color has become an act of bravery. I was going to read this one here, but I'm going to mix it up. I wasn't going to read anything from my book, but I'm going to now. Because I like you guys. All right, it's called Found Confetti, which is also the name of my book. There's some over there. Okay. I found confetti in the rubble, in my infected wounds, in myself. It's beautiful, with the fallen having imprinted neon streaks over gray ash. I took a picture and for a moment was solemn. I slithered out, tail after tooth, sharpened by the friction, and continued to take notes of all the contrasts around me, looking like a party. On the broken windshield, on the sticky sidewalk, on the trash-lined beach, looks like a party. in the ruins of castles, in the fallout of capitalism, as dandelions reseed between stones, and laughter springs up out of me, a geyser freed through cracks of uncertainty. I have become so accustomed to this revelation. Let me be the foxglove in the clear cut, shamelessly colorful and in bloom too long. I am the morel in the fire damage, the sparkler washed up on the beach, never lit. In a sea of plastic, I present to you art. Salty, poisonous, weathered, luxurious. If you stare long enough, the magic eye reveals itself. A water knock, a kelpie, a will-o'-the-wisp still luring you toward the light. Sog with a gall, she who watches, I am everywhere, I go nowhere. Rake my beaches, clean me up, try to edit me, dance with me. Party. Wait, let me check my calendar. Is today the day I'm supposed to come out again? Or remind you that your language is make-believe? Or is rent due? Or are these jeans not cool anymore? Or do I smell like I'm in a healthy mental state? You tell me. I don't want to contribute to this hell on earth. I just want to feel that heaven is worth the work of all this responsibility. I think I'll make up a new holiday. It's called Today, and it's good enough. Whatever I honor is worth it. Whatever I forget is just fine forgotten. I celebrate breathing. I throw whatever confetti I can find. It's dried flower petals, pine, and cigarette butts. It's sea glass from wine bottles. It's plastic googly eyes and used Disney Band-Aids. It's crumpled receipts and highlighted recipes. It's Post-it notes and business cards I'll never read again. This isn't clutter, though it might be trash. It's signs of life. I'll take them out, throw them around, cast spells to heal myself from the doubt. I don't know if it's a lost cause, and I don't have to find it, to fight for it. Let your own landmarks radicalize you. Find your cringe and run with it. I found some more confetti in the gutter. Let's party. Thank you. Okay, I got a few more. The next project I'm working on, and I don't know what it's going to turn into, but it's called Pleasantry with the L in parentheses, so that's what this next one's called. Taking the L is optional, in a labyrinth designed to lose you within its walls, as you are property of this kingdom, or that's what the royals would think if they thought of you at all. It gets sticky between the brick and mortar. We stay here and don't know if we're hiding on purpose or just left behind. Flowers don't have to be expensive. They can be stolen like kisses you thought you gave, but someone says you stole. How easily we're gaslighted and believed to be monsters when our practices are kindly. We are givers whose hands are empty. The days are packed. Not like sardines, like pennies rolled tight, ends folded precise, insides adding up to what? I wish for you a more simple life, for the necessity of washing fruit to be all you need to radicalize you. I've straddled the threshold my whole life, and I suppose I'm lucky to never be fully committed to anything except feeling out of place. So something within me compels me to fight for change, to slow down time, to space out these days, to unroll a carpet for us to walk on, shoes off first, hair down next, no more math, just instinct. May it, our instinct, turn to radiant joy. As frost sparkles in the morning light, may it coax undeniable belly laughs up the trail from our guts to our tongues. May we forget what we don't need. May we forgive the space for aching inside us. Woo. Yeah, I got one more. It's a sexy one. Get ready. It's called ampersand, like the symbol for amp and ampersand. Okay. Our body's made an ampersand, and I don't remember what I was thinking or where to go from here, but I do remember vividly how and feels like infinity. I dub this our hand fasting. Me and Shibari all out of words for once. How long could I stay like this, hands tied behind my back, trusting? I suspend myself against myself and you assist. You kiss my soft spots in between all the scars, and when we share the scar stories, they seem so short against the tall backdrop of ampersand and something like nothing conclusive. I wouldn't have it any other way. This stitch, this idea, this symbol, this is the stitch required to keep it all together. Yes, all of it, everything and bit and each love, even the one you fear will break your heart greater than ever before. But what if it didn't have to? What if we could hold each other's hearts to no end? And I don't believe if you love something, you should set it free. I think you should let it see. And what if that seed sprouts right before your eyes? And what if you're lucky enough to identify and observe a wildflower that could have sprouted anywhere but chose to live and stretch and grow and bloom right near you? And how lucky you are to share this breeze, rain, sunset, and the gift of more blossoms every year, henceforth. And per se, and as this moon wanes crescent, I let go what doesn't serve me. Obligations darkened in time, and in the folds of my open hands rest seeds that cling for reasons unknown. Hope lives in the possibility, in the mist, the mystery, in the shape that wraps around our concept of time and ampersand.